Good morning. This video could be a little bit long, I warn you. Hopefully not, but it's about books. I like books. Someone asked me recently what kind of book recommendations do I have, especially along the lines of books on marriage and things like that. I just went into my living room, gathered up all the books I have physical copies of. I've not really pre-planned this video. I don't have pre-plans on what I'm going to say on about each book or anything like that. There's quite a few books that I own that are just on the Kindle app on my phone. So those I'll just kind of have to tell you. I can't show you what they look like. And then of course some of the books that I do have physical copies of are much older, so they may have changed in what they look like. What I'm going to do with this video is any of the books I discuss or mention, I am going to put links down in the bottom. Most of them will be Amazon links. There's a few that I can think of off the top of my head that probably won't be. Now, I have not talked about this on any of my videos, but anytime I link to something on Amazon, disclaimer, I am using affiliate links. Now, I am not putting these links out there, and I'm not doing these videos just to make money off of Amazon links. Believe me, like so far since we've joined the affiliate program, I've made $2 whole. So yeah, really raking it in. But I want to be clear about that just in case anyone ever gets a wild hair and decides to accuse me of that one. That is not why I do it. I figure I link to these things anyway. I might as well join the affiliate program. You know, why not? It's that frugal side of me. So, and I'm not kidding. Literally, it's been $2 so far. So anyway, just wanted to get that out there. That way any of my regular viewers know that that is something that I've been doing. You had to put the disclaimer on there anyway, but I just felt like it was an upfront thing to tell you. Now, all of these links are, well, there's going to be quite a few of them. There might be a few of the books that I have that may not be available out there or may not be available at all. I know that when I went and clicked on my Kindle and kind of went through, okay, what did I read here? Did I read this one? Or did I start this one, not finish it? Stuff like that. But a couple of them I clicked on and they weren't available anymore. It wouldn't even give me the book details. And I'm like, well, that's weird. I don't know why. I have no idea. I think probably small publishers, or maybe somebody just self-published on Amazon that maybe they decided to take it down. I just really don't know. Hopefully most of the things, if you're interested, you can find. Fortunately, as I go through them in the video, I'm not going to have them grouped. I'm going to be hitting them all random, but I might try, if I have the foresight, to put them in order of the type of book and the links and so forth. I'll try to organize them a little better because I have books on like being a wife, being a mama. I threw some in on homeschooling. I threw some in on like child rearing, cleaning, various things, because those are kind of where a lot of my reading is at. I very rarely read fiction anymore. I don't have anything against it as long as it's relatively clean, of course. Excuse me. But I almost never read it. That's just not where my interest is most of the time. Most of my stuff is probably categorized as the proverbial self-help or faith or religious books. But I do like to read a lot of cleaning books and homekeeping books, and I usually devour any of them that I can find or that I've heard about. And speaking of that, before I forget, if you have books that you don't see me go over, there are some here, or some that I didn't include here, because like when I went through like my Kindle app, I'm like, did I read that or not? I don't remember. And I've read so many that some of them are blurring together. But if you've got really good ones that I haven't mentioned here, please tell me. I'm always looking for a new good book and so forth. Totally would love to hear about it if you've got more. So a couple other disclaimers before I get started. Sorry. Some of these books are considered controversial. I think I hit the mic again. So just be aware of that. That doesn't mean just because I go over this book doesn't mean I'm endorsing absolutely everything in it. But be aware, yes, I realize some of these are controversial. I ain't looking for a fight and bringing them up, but just wanted to put that out there. Oh, and just because I mention a book and I say, hey, this has got a lot of good stuff in it, doesn't mean I agree with every particular point in the book. So I just wanted to say that before I get started. All right, so the first book I have here, just on the top of the pile, these are in no particular order, is The Power of a Praying Wife by Stormy O. Martin. I read this many, many years ago. I do not remember everything in it, and I am sure there are things in it that I disagreed with. Pretty sure memory serves. However, there were some really good things in it too, and I definitely recommend snagging you a copy of that and reading it. Totally think it'd probably be fine to get an old copy. I don't know if it's been updated. Probably a lot of them have, but I literally read this probably around year 2000 or so, so it's almost been 20 years since I've read this. But I do like the book. This one, I don't really remember everything in it, but I remember reading it and thinking, wow, that was awesome. So I'm sorry that I can't give you really good details about it. That happens when you read a lot, but I do remember really liking this book. It's called Daughters of Sarah by Genevieve M. White. And if memory serves, this was a little harder to get a hold of, so hopefully you can find a copy. This one is probably on the slightly controversial side. It is Fascinating Womanhood by Helen B. Andelin. Part of that would make it controversial is the author, I believe, was Mormon, if I remember right. The whole Stepford wife thing was like tied in there too. But anyway, for better or worse, no, I didn't agree with everything in it. However, I do feel like there were some good nuggets in it, and I enjoyed reading it. So for what it's worth, I enjoyed the book. One of the most, this might make y'all just pause the video and just click away. Hopefully you don't. Hopefully you hang with me, because some of you are already going to know this next book and you're not going to like it. Hopefully you can get past it though. The Power of a Transformed Wife by Lori Alexander. This particular person has a very bad reputation lately. She is on Facebook and shares some very, very controversial statements and images and articles and things like that about wives submitting to their husbands. However, that said, I know she's not liked. No, I don't agree 100% with everything, and I also would say I would phrase things pretty differently sometimes, but I do think she is a sincere Christian who is just simply trying to teach ladies how to follow the Bible. And whether or not you agree with how she phrases everything, I really liked her book. I thought it was a really good book. It often references Created to Be His Helpmeet by Debbie Pearl. Very controversial book as well. That particular book I've started to read multiple times and just never could get into it. I don't know why, I just couldn't. Perhaps because of some of the controversy, I don't know, I just couldn't focus. But, so be aware of that. Again, I know not everybody's going to agree with that, but I really liked the book. I thought it was an excellent book. I'm not 100% in agreement with every particular point, but I thought it was a good thing. And I would encourage you to not let your feathers be so ruffled by simply what the Bible says. It is very, very easy to get really, really fiery mad about things, especially if they're phrased in a very firm, strong way, and it's like, oh, how dare you say that? But give it a shot. And if you just can't do it, you can't do it. There's a lot of other good things here too, but I think her stuff is good. I do. This one, I read this a few years ago, Raising Godly Tomatoes. This is not a book on marriage at all. It's a book on raising children. And it talks about keeping your children close to you to teach them and so forth, and to teach obedience. I really like this book. I thought it was very good. Initially, I read the PDF, and I liked the PDF so much that I ended up buying a hard copy of it. Sometimes I do that with books I really like. I rarely buy a hard copy anymore unless I know that I'm going to really want it. This is a book I've had since I was a teenager. It's called A Light from Heaven by Christmas Carol Kaufman. For many years, it was very hard to get your paws on because it went out of print, and you could not find this anywhere, like at all. However, I think they did another print run of it, so I think it's a little easier to find than what it was. This is a novel that would be, classified as fiction, but it was just really, really good. It's kind of dark, it's kind of heavy, not kind of, it is, but it was just really, really good example of a wife being married to just a bear of a husband, just an awful guy, really, and her maintaining her Christianity and her faith through the process, and how the son turned out to be. So very, very good book, all-time favorite. I would not let go of this copy, not even remotely. Another thing in the vein of fiction that I read years ago, the popular author for that kind of thing is Janet Oakey's Roses for Mama. I just really like the book, and I think it's a really good book for young ladies, especially young unmarried girls. My copy is old, it's stained, it's beat up. I think I did read this before I was married, I think, but I'm not positive. When was it done? Let me see. I could be totally wrong about that. I don't know. I don't see yeah, it's been around long enough to have read it before I was married. It was copyrighted in 91 and I was married in 97, so it's possible, but I really like the book. A cleaning book. This one is, you've probably heard of The Fly Lady, but this is her book on sink reflections and on cleaning. I enjoyed it. If you like that kind of stuff, totally pick that up. Her system isn't something I follow perfectly, but I do take a lot of good nuggets from it. This is a book that was popular for a while, and I really, really loved it. Still recommend it. Courtney Joseph's Women Living Well. She runs a whole site called by the same name and has a Good Morning Girls thing that she operates. She's got a YouTube channel. I really like her stuff. She is a sweetheart, and she's gone through some hard times since this book has been written, and if you follow her, you'll probably know what I mean. But I really recommend her book. I think it is a very excellent book. Totally glad to have a hard copy. This is one you might have a harder time getting a hold of. I had bought this through the GBS catalog, I think. I think Christian Light actually. No, it's Rod and Staff published. But it's a good book. Also, don't agree with everything in it, though I think it's got a lot of really good stuff. And it's got some chapters for older ladies and so forth too, which is kind of nice. You don't often see that in these types of books. But a good all-around book on being a wife and a mama and homemaker. It's obviously from the very plain Mennonite perspective, if you can't tell. So, one of the more controversial books I have, but it's a much, much older book, and I strongly recommend this, is Me, Obey Him by Elizabeth Rice Hanford. I read this a long time ago, long about the time that I started wearing the head covering, and this stepped all over my toes a lot, but I thought it was a very, very good book. One of my favorite books when it comes to the submission type books. There's a few like Surrendered Wife, I think that was Laura Doyle, I could be wrong. I'm like, nah, it's okay. I would call it Submission Light or Submission 101, and it's worth a read if you want to. But this doesn't really hold back. It's kind of like Transformed Wife in that respect. They both will step all over your toes and cause you to ask some serious questions, but I think that's a good thing. Even if you don't agree with every aspect in it, some good stuff in there. That is all of the physical copies of books that I got out. There's other books that I do have physical copies of, like the Little House series. I still love those. I think they're awesome. Yeah, they're kids' books, and yeah, I started reading them when I was like 7, but I still like to reread them once in a while. They're just peaceful. Most of the physical copies of stuff I felt good about putting out here, I already went through, but I do have quite a few things on my Kindle, and I just have a written list for that. First up is one I have not yet finished, but so far I have liked, and it's The Peaceful Wife by April Cassidy. I mentioned her recently on another video, but I've read a lot on her blog and seen her videos, and I really like where she's coming from, and she usually says things pretty nice. So definitely, at least from this point, I would recommend it. Like, again, I've not finished that one yet. Home Comforts, The Art and Science of Homekeeping by Cheryl, and then I couldn't see on my Kindle the rest of her last name, so forgive me there. I'll have to look that up. But I enjoyed that book. I thought it was a good one. I didn't, memory serves, read 100% of it, but I read most of it, and I thought it was a good one to have. It's one I probably would revisit at some point. Now, here's 2 books that I read as ebooks. It is possible to get them on Amazon, but the author makes them available on her site. One of them's free on her site, and the other one you can get a reduced copy of the ebook. It's like $10, I think is what I paid for my ebook copy. Her physical copy is like $20. But both of these are excellent. They're both by Amy Marion. I love her videos and her blog. Her blog is Plain and Not So Plain. Her first book is Large Family Mothering. That's the one that I actually paid for, and I think I paid $10 for the ebook, but the physical copy on Amazon should be about $20. I think it's worth it. I really liked it. And then When the Storm Clouds Roll In. I strongly recommend that particular one. She makes that one available for free on her blog, Plain and Not So Plain. But it's a really, really good one if you struggle with depression in your moods and things like that. Just good stuff. Let's see. The Homemade Housewife is an ebook that I read by Kate Singh. I enjoyed that. Don't agree 100% with everything, but I enjoyed it. In the homeschooling realm, one I wanted to put forth is Overcoming Dyslexia by Sally Shaywitz. If you have a dyslexic child, almost everybody in the homeschooling dyslexic kids group has probably read this book. It's an excellent book and probably the most #1 recommended one. Oops, sorry, touching the microphone. I gotta quit that. Weight loss books. I wanted to toss this in here even though this is the only one I think of this topic that I'm throwing in, just because it was so good. The Obesity Code by Jason Fung. That is a low-carb realm type of a book, though it's not specifically ketogenic because I know he recommends some rice and things like that, but it's a very good book, and that's a guy who really knows what he's talking about. Hope for the Heart of the Homeschool Mom by Jamarelle Stewart. She's someone I also watch on YouTube, and I read her book and enjoyed it. 2 classics that I want to mention that I think are really worth your time to get and read the unabridged versions. I really like them because they had a lot of faith in them and a lot of really, really good thoughts, deep thoughts. And it amazes me when you see the movies how it's completely scrubbed of it. But it's just a sad thing because these books are just so deep. Swift's Family Robinson and Little Women. Get those original ones and read those. I know Swiss Family Robinson can probably be a bit on the dry side because it talks so much about the survival, but I love that book. I thought it was awesome, and how much faith is intertwined in there. Just excellent. One of the best reads I'd ever had. Another ebook of the wife and homemaking realm, Living Virtuously by Erin Harrison. She's someone who's out there online with a YouTube presence as well. She's got some pretty good stuff. Like a lot of other things, again, I don't agree with everything, but for the most part, there's some good things in there. The thing that stands out in my mind that I don't agree with is making yourself up to be kind of more fancy and putting on makeup and stuff like that. As someone who doesn't do that, you kind of are left with the impression that you're a bad, frumpy, ugly wife if you don't. And some of us I know have convictions, or in my case, I also have skin allergies, lots of them. I can't do that. So I wasn't really thrilled with that particular aspect of that book. And that you'll find that in some of these homemaking books. That's not the only one. And I get the making yourself look nice and clean and tidy and try to make your appearance feminine. These books often will encourage that, and I think that's a good thing, and I agree. It's just sometimes they push it to the point that you feel like that you're just, I don't know, wrong or evil just because you don't do everything the way they do, if that makes sense. I don't think they mean to come across that way, but sometimes it's like when you read those chapters. Kind of an oddball one that's more on the cleaning realm, Clutter Free with Kids by Joshua Becker. That's actually a book on minimalism, and I'm kind of a funny person. I like to watch videos and read books on minimalism, but in the same turn, I'm kind of a hoarder, so I'm trying to find balance in there because I got that prepper hoarder vibe, but yet I really like a lot of the minimalism things too. It makes sense, but yet keeping certain things do too, so you just have to find balance. But I thought there was a lot of good toy advice in that book, so I wanted to put it on here. 21 Days to a More Disciplined Life by Crystal Payne. I remember really enjoying that book and wishing it could magically make me a more disciplined person. That has not happened yet. Be nice if it did, but I do think there's good advice in the book. It's worth taking a look at. The Heart of Simplicity, Foundations for Christian Homemaking, by Natalie, and I don't know how to pronounce her last name. Again, it'll be on the list, and then there's other authors listed too. I will break those out and put them online. Okay, back there. I had to pause for a second. Kind of not 100% sure where I was. I think I was on The Heart of Simplicity, Foundations for Christian Homemaking, and then Natalie, and then I can't pronounce her last name. Anyway, I read through that one, and it was an okay book from what I remember. One of the problems I have, and I'm noticing it, and I really hadn't given it a lot of thought until today, is a lot of these books I really remember, but a lot of the ebooks I'm like, I know I read that, and I know I liked it, but I don't remember the details as well. And I wonder if there's something about the hard copy versus the ebook copy and how well you remember it. I don't know. It's a thought. Tell me, do you experience that too? Do you find that you remember better from a hard copy? Because I'm thinking I do. Like, I know I read this book because it shows that I read it 100%, and I remember having feelings of liking it, but I am not remembering the details of it. And I'm finding that with several of the ebooks. There was, I don't know, probably 10 or 15 more that when I looked through my list, I could not remember at all, even though it shows that I read it. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to put this on the list because I can't remember if I liked it or not. I wrote down the ones that I'm pretty sure that on the ebooks that I liked or had some good memories about. But I find that weird. Anyway, continue on. This is a book I don't have a physical copy of anymore. At least I couldn't find it. You know, I've got enough books. I lose books. Excellent Wife by Martha Peace. Now, disclaimer on this. I never read it completely. I kept reading part of the way into it and then either stopping or just getting distracted. It was harder to hold my attention. And I don't know why. Everybody raves at how lovely this book is, and what I read of it, I liked it, so I thought I would include it, but I didn't get through it 100%, and I don't know. I think I get a little, as my husband says, squirrel. You're distracted sometimes. That's me. Sometimes things struggle to hold my attention more than others, and some of it's my mood. The one that I couldn't get on there was Simply Homeschool, and I do remember liking that a lot because it was about simplifying your homeschool, which is something I'm all about. But every time I'd click on it, it would say the author wasn't available and the book wasn't available, so I don't know if you'll be able to find that. The Good Wife's Guide to Embracing Your Role as Helpmeet by Darlene Schatt. I'm not sure if I pronounced her last name right, but she's a very popular, also, someone with a major internet presence out there. And I enjoyed that book. Elizabeth Elliot, and I'm reading one of her books on discipline. I don't have the exact title in front of me. The book's upstairs. But haven't got very far into that. But what I know of Elizabeth Elliot, I really, really like the things and talks I've seen her do on YouTube. Just really good, deep author there. So I haven't gotten fully into the book yet, but I'm working on that one, and I suspect it's going to be a good keeper. Most of everything I've heard from her, I've really, really liked. So I'm pretty comfortable in throwing her name out there as a recommendation. The other thing I wrote down was just a Little House series. So I know I went through a lot of them fast. And here's the sad part is I know I'm probably missing several things that I don't remember or can't find easily. And they're not just coming to my brain as, oh yeah, I need to recommend this. And I'm going to be kicking myself later when I'm like, I didn't get that on my list. So if that happens, I might do another video at some point. But there's a lot of books here. And I know when I was asked the question of what books would I recommend, it was probably in the vein of being a wife and being a submissive wife. And probably my top number one on that would be the Me Obey Him. The Women Living Well was just pretty darn good too. But like, if you want specifically just on being a submissive wife, then I would have to recommend that too. So again, I know some of those are very controversial, and you know, they are what they are. I do strongly think that those authors are doing their best to be good Christian wives, just like the rest of us. We're just trying to do our best to serve God and follow a narrow path, and actually not hate what the Bible says. And I know a lot of us get flack for that. I certainly do for some of my really old videos. I know I stepped on some toes then, and probably still will periodically. That's probably why I'll never be a very big YouTuber, just because that's you have to follow what the Bible says. And I know it is not in our culture to say things like this book says, like totally not at all. People are going after her so bad. Oh my. Now, again, I know sometimes she says things in a way that I wouldn't say it that way, but you know, it is what it is. The heart of what she's saying is what's important though. And a lot of times things are twisted. The other night I was on YouTube, and because I had watched her videos, you know how it'll suggest recommended videos? Well, it started recommending the anti-her videos, and it would autoplay them, and I didn't want to click on them. I didn't want to give it a view, but the autoplay had started functioning, and I listened and kind of read the subtitle that it was putting forth. And you can see immediately how bad they twist what she says, that she promotes marital rape and that so many horrible things. No, she does not. There is a big difference between marital rape and being a submissive wife. Big difference. So anyway, I'm not going to go into all that right now, but yes, I realize these books are controversial. I know another controversial one I forgot. See, I knew I'd think of others. The Duggar books, the 20 and Counting. I know I read that one, and 11 Multiplies. I have it, but I have not read it yet. I bought it, and it came in a lot of other Christian books that I bought. So, I liked it. I enjoyed it. I know that some people, the Duggars, you either love them or you hate them. I enjoyed their show. No, they're not perfect people, and maybe no things aren't always handled perfectly. You know, I get that. I'm not condoning anything, but I don't hate that family for it. I really enjoyed the shows and stuff that I've seen. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I just thought it was very edifying, and I enjoyed the book too, so maybe you will too. If I think of others, maybe I'll update the list or do a new video, but there are some book recommendations and things I've gone through. I will admit freely, I don't read as often as what I used to. I find, again, I have the attention span of a gnat some days, and I find that's a struggle to keep my mind focused as much as I want it to. I listen to books more than I used to. I really have gotten into the idea of audiobooks, so if I can find one on audio, I will consume it rapidly. So that's something I would recommend checking into too. But all in all, those are my recommendations. I hope that you guys enjoy them. Have a blessed day.